I love things that seem ridiculous on their face, which are you can get a couch for nothing and then you can go and sell it for hundreds of dollars more than you bought it for.
There are lots of couches outside of Facebook Marketplace too. And so if you want to have longevity in this game and you want to make money flipping couches and you want to build a flipping business in general, it behooves you to get creative.
I feel like the younger you are in this, the more you would fall into the trap of staying in the operations of your business. So you're the one cleaning all the couches, you're the one picking up all the couches, you're the one searching for all of them. You should be welcoming people into this business because it is something that gives us joy and something that we really, really like. And why wouldn't you want to share that with people? If you found something that you like and you want to keep it to yourself, like recognize that's a toxic behavior and get over it.
Michael, thank you for jumping on the Couch Pod with me today. I think our viewers would love an introduction, who you are, where you're at. So if you could give us a little bit of context, that would be amazing.
Okay, so my name is Michael Rudez. I'm in the Chattanooga, Tennessee market. For those of you guys who don't know where Chattanooga is, it's about 2 hours from several major cities. Those are Knoxville, Nashville, Atlanta, and Birmingham. It used to be an old railroad town, so we're kind of in the center of everything. I grew up here, spent some time in New York, went to college in New York City, and then moved back down here in 2010 just for bio. And I left a career in operations management for Starbucks Coffee Company as a store manager in 2021. I'd been there 15 years and did some businesses in 2021 just by myself. Starting beginning of this year, a business partner of mine left his career as a college professor of theater in a small town called Cleveland, Tennessee, about 20 minutes north of here. And he was looking for ways to make money. And I had done couch flipping before for a month or two right after I left Starbucks because I thought it was interesting, but stopped it because I didn't want to do it by myself anymore. And so when he got out of his career, he was looking for a way to make money. And I said, I would do this again if I had a partner. And so we ran a 4 couch test. So we just bought 4 couches and bought a U-Haul, and got them all around and saw how much money we could make. And I've been doing it ever since February of 2023 now. So.
I actually didn't know that you spent some time out in New York City. How was that? You went to school here?
Oh, it was great. I spent 10 years there. I went to NYU when I was 18 and was on a theater degree. So I was in Tisch School of the Arts, studied acting, studied producing, directing, all that stuff. And in 4 years of that, I learned I didn't want to do any of it as a career, which was great. So I kind of fell into my career at Starbucks, and I had worked management on a couple ones on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, 75th Street and First Avenue and 78th and Lexington, which were 2 very busy stores at the time, and decided to move back to Chattanooga when I wanted to own something. Because I knew if I stayed in New York, I was going to rent, I was going to do all that my entire life, and so I moved back.
Yeah, it's definitely a grind out in New York City. I'll tell you that. The thing I like about New York is that you have the best of everything here. Really, people come to New York City to pursue their dreams, their passion. And so it could be anything. It could be finance, it could be art, it could be a tech startup, it could be jujitsu or really whatever. So you have the best of everything, but it is extremely hard to live. Your average Joe Schmo American, it's really hard to get by. And, it's a microcosm, I think, for life in America, actually, because you could be a professional making $250,000 a year and you're still living paycheck to paycheck in New York City. And then, of course, across the country, you have people making much less than that, and they're just struggling to get by. And so this is, something that I see all across the nation and something that drives a lot of our couch flippers to get into the game, right? They want to build equity, earn something for themselves, and they realize that they're not going to be able to do it within the context of 9-to-5 employment. How do I get into business for myself? And it sounds like, similar story kind of drove you into couch flipping.
Yeah, I had been always the kind of guy to do side hustles and things, even when I was in my middle of my career. I was a rental property guy. I was a landlord for a couple properties with a business partner, and I had bought and sold things, just arbitrage wise, always. So that got to the point where, to use the phrase rat race, which I think is overused, but I didn't want to be in the rat race anymore, and it was time to leave. And so I did, and it's been scary being your own boss yourself, turning all of these side things into a main thing, but it's also been extremely rewarding, and couches fit right into that. I love things that seem ridiculous on their face, which are you can get a couch for nothing and then you can go and sell it for hundreds of dollars more than you bought it from, by doing virtually sometimes nothing to it. And that kind of, I don't want to use the word magic, but it seems like it's magic. Like you just created out of nothing. How is it that easy? Anybody can do this. And taking something like that and just running with it, just, full throttling as much as you can, and see like what the possibilities are. It's fascinating to me.
So is couch flipping your full-time gig now?
No, yes and no. I work on it, I think probably about 30 to 40 hours a week at this point. It accounts for about half my income. I also do Turo right now, which, and if any of your listeners don't know about it, it's like a car, it's Airbnb for cars. So I do a part of the time on that. That's more passive at this point. And then I get half my income from couches. This next year, we're hoping to change that. I want to get out of the Turo business. I love it, but it's too much labor. I said it was passive, but it's more semi-passive. So then it's worth to actually work it. The couches are doing much better.
Interesting. If you don't mind, we could take a small detour into the world of Turo. I know our listeners are always looking for new ways to make money, and just small exploration into what you've been doing in Turo could be interesting. And actually, I have a little bit of context. I have a friend that has a fleet, a Turo fleet, probably has like 10 vehicles in his fleet. And we talk a little bit about his business, but love to hear like maybe just high level your experience with it and maybe a little bit about the economics there.
Sure. So while I was still at Starbucks, I had one car, my main car, and I was hitting a midlife crisis. So I wanted to get a cool car. And for me, that was the BMW Z3, which is the car in James Bond with Pierce Brosnan. And so I wanted to get a car. So I got the car and was like, how am I going to pay for all the maintenance, the repairs, the reconstruction of that car? And so having read Robert Kiyosaki, I decided to rent out my daily driver on Turo and get money and use that money towards fixing up the Z3. That did really well. And I made way more money than I thought I did. So instead of it becoming, how do I use this money and channel it into a project, it became, oh crap, I need another car because this is really good. So I ended up getting a couple, 3 or 4 in my fleet. And I was doing that while working a full-time job, and that was okay. It was one of the reasons I decided to leave, because I was like, I could scale this up. And so in 2022, I scaled up to over 10 cars, depending on the time, because they were always something out with maintenance and things. But I've had 13 cars at my max, usually 10 cars in my fleet running at any time. And that was okay. I liked it. And like I said, it's semi-passive. So you spend a lot of time washing cars, cleaning cars. You're your own customer support department. I've never been mechanically minded with vehicles. I can do basic things, but I would always have to pay for things. And I'd always get questions from customers, hey, this so-and-so happened, heard this, what's wrong? I don't know. I don't know. So it became hassle and more of me looking up how to do basic maintenance on YouTube than I wanted to. And so when couches came along, that was something that I knew more about better. And it became much more lucrative to do that and start to scale down the Turo thing. I think Turo is worth it if you have less than 5 vehicles or more than 15. But when you're in that 5 to 10 range, it's just too much work, because I couldn't afford an assistant with that many cars. So I need more cars to hire somebody to do it full time with you. But I liked it while I did it. It was fun.
Yeah, it seems like it's an inflection point between too many cars to be a side hustle and too little to make it a full-time thing. And so you hit this limit of 10 in your fleet. And then, being mechanically inclined would definitely help. There's lots of parts that go through wear and tear when you're constantly running a vehicle, tires, spark plugs.
Oil changes even, you're doing oil changes every month on a vehicle, depending on how much it's getting driven. So yeah, it just doesn't become worth it at a certain point.
So just a couple more questions on this. Like the average car in your fleet, what was the cash value of the car that you would buy?
So it's going to depend on market. However, in Chattanooga, for some reason, everybody wanted to rent out their luxury car. So if they had a luxury car, they were host on Turo. There was a lot of Lexuses, there were some Corvettes, there were all those things. And I was like, this is interesting for this market. So I purposefully went the other direction and went into economy cars.
Mhm.
So I had several Fiat 500s, the little tiny city cars, for Yaris, those types of vehicles, higher mileage. So they needed more maintenance, but it was something the market didn't have. So I was also buying at like the peak of the car market. So the Fiats that I were buying were $10,000 to $14,000. I was paying cash, and then the Yaris was a little bit less. I did get one for like 8,000, which was an insanely good deal for the time. So I went the other direction and went really, really low, which worked well for me and what I was trying to do, which was just get as much cash flow as possible for income for me. I wasn't really thinking about it as a business. I was thinking about it as a job. And so that worked well for my strategy, but I can see the value of having one Corvette as opposed to 3 or 4 Fiats. Just it gets rented out a quarter as much, but it gets 5 or 6 times more income. I just didn't want to play around in that space because it was oversaturated.
That was very, very interesting. I mean, the timing of this is very interesting as well. I had a Honda Accord. I've had 3 Honda Accords. I total 2. And I moved to Mexico during the pandemic, so it basically was unused for about a year and a half. And then I moved to New York. So another like solid year of just sitting in Pennsylvania, not doing anything. So I eventually sold it. I bought the thing for, I think, 15,000, 16,000. And then I ended up selling it for the same amount 5 years later, 50,000 miles plus.
Yeah.
So the used car market was crazy. I sold it to Carvana, right? And they literally, I put in the information online. They gave me an instant quote, and they came and picked it up the next day. I was like, this was so easy. Like, I can't believe it. They just I made money on this car. How did I make money on this?
Yeah, a couple of my cars got totaled. Just it happens. And so Turo, they have what they call trip insurance for you. So you get insurance per trip, and they were paying out more money than what I paid for these vehicles. And they had been driven around, for 6 months or a year, like a rental. And that happened. And I was like, you could just make money this way. So that was something that was crazy that I found was at that time in the market, making money when your customer has an accident and totals your car. It wasn't intended, obviously, but that was insane that happened.
It's based on the market value of the vehicle. Although I'm assuming that there was a deductible, right?
There is. And the way Turo works is I don't know if you know, in order to make money, you have a trip insurance, and then you have a percent of revenue that you want to take out. And it's like a sliding scale. So they can give you more insurance, which means less deductible and more stuff is covered, and you get a less of a share of the trip revenue. Or you can take at the other end, the high end, and get very, very little insurance, just basic insurance, like don't call us unless it's totaled kind of insurance, and get a much higher percentage of the trip revenue. So it depends on where your risk adversity is on that scale, and then running your numbers that way. I was on the higher end of that, but even still with a deductible, still made money on that. I don't know who they were using for their insurance quotes, but at that time in the market, it was great.
Interesting. All right. Well, thank you for that information. You guys heard it here first. If you're interested in maybe supplementing your couch flip income, build a Turo fleet. You can make some money that way, but your mileage may vary. No pun intended.
Zing.
Okay, so let's get into the meat and bones of this. So couch flipping is your main gig right now. And right now in Chattanooga, you're operating your flipping business with a partner who wasn't able to make it on today, but we'll have to speak for him then. So why don't you give me a breakdown of, and I've been looking at your numbers as we've been speaking, but why don't you give us a breakdown of, how this past year has been going? Because I know you just got started up like this January, and, where you think you're at with the business.
This year has been like the overarching question of this year has been how far do we want to go with this? What is this business going to be? Is this going to be a 40-hour a week maximum input for maximum return type of business? Or is this going to be something that we grow to a moderate scale, try to have somebody operate and just take a little bit of cash flow every month, but don't really have any time invested into it? That has gone back and forth several times during this year. We started off really, really trying to put full gas into it and doing really well. My business partner has several other jobs that he uses to kind of cobble together income for himself. And so he has been slowly losing those jobs over this year on purpose, like slowly cutting out income on that in order to get to a point where he can invest full time into this. And that was finally end of Q3 we were like, okay, let's put on the gas, see what we can do. So this year started out income wise really, really great. 10, 11, $12,000 months. Summer, we were really kind of hitting that point of like, okay, does Michael want to keep his Turo business going? Does Dan want to keep all of his jobs or pare down or something like that? So our sales were a lot less. We weren't putting as much effort into the business. And now that we've ramped back up, we're finally over, $11,000, $12,000 in October in sales and on pace for that in November as well. And I've really started actually strategically planning out this next year where we just kind of take the reins off and say, what can this be? What absolutely could this be if we just dedicated all our time and effort to it? What could we turn it into? I'm trying to plan for that. So that's where we are.
Is there a number that you have to hit either in revenue or in terms of net income for you to say, like, this is the thing that we're going to do full time? Like, where's that inflection point for you?
I want to make sure I understand the question. You're saying like, how much revenue would I have to draw from the business personally to make this worth it?
Yes.
$3,000 a month is what I'd have to take out of my business a month. And since we're equal, that's him too. So that's $6,000 in our labor out every month in order to make this our full-time thing. And I think we can do it next year. We're not there yet, but I think we can get there.
Yeah. $3,000 net income. And that's accounting for, like, let's say 30% of that needing to be withheld for taxes.
Yeah, exactly.
$3,000 owner's draw, that's $6,000 between you and your partner, but you want some of that money to, like, some of the profits to stay in the business as well. So let's say that's like $2,000 a month. And so your net income needs to be something like
$8,000.
$8,000. Yeah, $8,000 to $10,000.
I would feel comfortable getting completely out of Turo at that point. It wouldn't be making much. I mean, $3,000 a month sounds like a lot, but it's not much. In order to spend the time I want, inflate this more.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's good. And what that indicates to me is that you have set yourself up financially to be able to, like, you can just operate very lean, right? Because $3,000 as owner's draw, in order for you to sustain your lifestyle, that's actually not that much money, which is really good for an entrepreneur.
This is where I should say, I mean, my partner and I are privileged in the fact that we both have longer careers. Like, we're both over 40. So we've both accumulated a little bit of money, either through, savings or through other side hustles or things that we had. And we both have no debt. So the only debt I have is the mortgage on the house I pay, which you're in right now. So I have that mortgage and I have my utilities. So I can afford to live a little lean. So I know if some of your listeners are out there going, what the hell, 3,000? What the heck is that? It's because that goes further with me than it does other people. And I always caution any new entrepreneur or anybody else to stay away from debt as much as they can in terms of personal debt. I do believe in good debt. I do believe there's debt you could take on for a business that will make you money. Absolutely. Especially if you're getting into rental properties, you're not going to throw down all that money on your first rental property. You're going to have to take debt on it. But to stay as lean as possible, because it sets you up later in life if you want to try something else or do something different, not doing that up front. Because your audience skews younger, right? I feel like I'm on the older side of couch flippers.
I mean, I think the median is probably around 30s, mid 30s.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Well, no, maybe like late 20s, early 30s. I certainly, I have like kids on our platform, like literal kids. They're in high school, 16 years old.
That's cool, actually.
Yeah, I think it's really cool because, I mean, what was I doing at 16 years old, right? I should have been doing this because at 16 years old, you have no expenses. You're probably using your parents' truck, operating out of their house.
You make a couple $100s out of thin air and it feels really good. Yeah.
Yeah. And, like these kids, maybe I shouldn't call them kids, but they're getting up before school, 5 a.m. They go do their pickups 5 to 8. And then they get out of school like 3, 4 o'clock. And then they just like hustle till from 4 to 8. And some of them making good money, like a couple $1,000s extra every year. And, that accumulates, compounding, whatever. And, at that rate, they could be, multiple 6 figures net worth by the time they're 25, right? They just get an early start. Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible.
But like we have a couple of those, but I would say this is a bit of a younger man's game in that it is physically demanding, but the like older flippers, they're older, but they're more experienced as well. And so what I find is that they tend to accelerate in their business a lot faster. And so they figure out, what the model is, what the processes should be, and start putting those into place, and they start removing themselves from the labor.
Yes. I feel like the younger you are in this, the more you would fall into the trap of staying in the operations of your business. So you're the one cleaning all the couches. You're the one picking up all the couches. You're the one searching for all of them. Because at least when I was younger, maybe I'm projecting, but when I was younger, it was hard for me getting into management to distinguish between it was my job to get done and my job to do it. And those are two different things. And being able to distinguish between those and knowing when to delegate out your tasks and when to step out of it and just be like a manager would be harder the younger you are. And so I feel like that's a trap they would fall into.
It's a perspective thing somewhat, right? Like understanding how to work on your business instead of in your business and the value of that. Mm-hmm. But, as I talk to couch flippers, a lot of them have that desire where they want to get out of their business, like out of working in their business. They want to work on their business. The difficult part is how do you get there? And so what ends up happening for a lot of couch flippers is, and this is something that we realized as we were building Ivy Flip, right? Because we would sell people the software and then, everyone's excited, they're getting on board. And then just like a couple months later, maybe they'd churn. And we'd be scratching our heads because we know that sourcing is one of the most important parts of building a flipping business. And our tool, if you use it correctly, helps you source. Like you've been a customer of ours since the beginning of the year, right? And so we're just like sitting there and we're wondering like, why are people getting in and out of our subscription so fast? And a lot of it had to do with like, they just couldn't afford it or they're getting out of flipping. It was really nothing to do with how the software itself was working. And that was confusing to us because when we were selling the software back then with software, right? Like I got on a sales call with you and I pitched it to you.
Yeah. You were the closer on that one.
Yeah. So we don't do sales anymore. It's all like automated. You go download the app, you get a free trial, whatever. But when I was doing the sales and I was asking people about their business, I would, always start with a couple discovery questions, something like, how many couches do you flip a month? Or how many couches do you flip a week? How much gross profit do you make per flip? And by those numbers, everyone that I was talking to is making six figures. And so it was very confusing to us, like, okay, everyone's making six figures based on the numbers that they're telling us. Why are people churning? And why are they saying we're not making money? It's too expensive. We're getting out of the game. And then, so we started to drill down into the finances of flippers. And, just as you sent over your spreadsheet with your finances, we started having people log their transactions and log their expenses. And a lot of flippers didn't have like an accurate record of how their business was doing. And so that was a big eye opener for us. As we started to drill down into the finances of flippers, what we realized is a lot of people are just making it by. They're not getting ahead. They're just getting by. And a lot of times, like barely getting by. And if there's any unexpected expense, they get locked out of their storage, or there's a slow season of sales, or their car or van breaks down, that can totally take them out of commission. And so I think this is something that we've seen with a lot of flippers is they're struggling to like even get ahead with their business a little bit. And so they never have that room to figure out how to grow and what is the model. And they feel like they, in a sad way, they almost become a slave to their business, right? And like they're forced to keep working in it to keep things going as opposed to creating the opportunity to get ahead. And that's really the impetus for us to rethink a little bit of our business model and rethink the resources that we were providing and information that we were providing to couch flippers and trying to get them to, elevate their game a little bit is a lot of these conversations that we're having. Now, I'm curious, when I look at your spreadsheet, let's say October, you did about 12K revenue. It looks like the net income from that is about 4,300, right? Net income in October. So that number needs to double. And if we were going to just extrapolate what your sales needed to be based on your current like gross margin, net margin, you probably need to do $24,000 in sales, which is not bad. I mean, I was just talking to a couch flipper the other week as the most recent podcast that we released. If you want to take a look, they're flippers out in Miami, also partnership model. And they're doing $34,000 in revenue, and that equates to $12,000 in net income. And they have people selling for them and people sourcing for them. And so their operational expenses are A lot higher than yours. Actually, wait. No, it's actually the net margin is about exactly the same because you're doing 12 revenue and then 4,000 net income. They're doing 34 revenue and then 12,000 net income. So actually the net margin is very similar. So yeah, maybe this will, I'll do an investigation on this later, but maybe that's like the golden rule of couch flipping P&L, couch flipping P&L, right? It's like whatever your top line revenue is, your net income is going to be a third of that. So I'll figure that out.
Something weird, and you can cut this if it doesn't pertain, but managing Starbucks. So looking at the P&L of a Starbucks unit, and I've now managed half a dozen of them. They all come out to about 40% net revenue, which is, and I'm 38 right now. I'm back in October. It's always somewhere in the 40 range, and our gross margin the same, about somewhere between 70 and 75. And I was like, is this a golden rule for every damn business? Or what is it? It shocks me how much it mirrors a P&L in terms of gross margin and controllable contribution and what I call total contribution, but you call net income. It's weirdly the same. So anyway, that's a non sequitur, but I always think that's so weird.
It's interesting when you can bring perspective from another business into what you're currently doing and you have that perspective, right? Like you have that like frame of reference to understand like this is what a healthy P&L looks like. But of course, it has to be specified to the kind of business that you're running.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like software P&L, like the kind of company that we run compared to couch flipping, totally different. And we do have a couch flipping unit now. So the way that works is we partner with flippers, and right now it's just in New York City. We started expanding out into Connecticut too. We partner with flippers who are operating and already operational in those cities, and we become sort of like a consumer interface on top of the flipper. To make it simple, like we do the sales, we do the sourcing and the sales, so we find the deals in whatever way. We could go on Marketplace and find them. I have a team of VAs right now constantly scouring Facebook Marketplace looking for deals. We also run like pickup ads. And when we find the deal, we say, hey, Flipper, here's a couch, go pick it up. And they look at it, they evaluate it, do I want this or not? If they do, they go get it. Then they pick it up, they store it, they clean it, take photos. They give us all the information that we need to relist the couch. We post that couch on Marketplace, on our website, etc. And then once it sells, we tell the flipper, hey, go deliver the couch. And so it allows them to like focus on, certain aspects of the business, and then allows us to leverage our technology and then like, let's say our office workers to take care of the sales and marketing component. And then we do a commission split with we basically have, equity on the couch with the couch flipper. So there's no money being paid to us up front. We get paid when the couch gets sold.
Charles, are you just trying to do Uber for couches?
It's kind of a similar idea. Yeah. And what I was getting back to, like talking about earlier, in that what we realized is couch flippers are willing to work hard. They're hard workers. They want a better opportunity for themselves and their family. A lot of them don't know what to do. Some people do. And for the people that do, what we want to do is sell them software that helps them run their business more efficiently. But for the people that don't, right? The people that want to make money but don't know how to get ahead, we want to give them a system. Because when you go drive for Uber, you don't need to know how to run a transportation company. You just need to bring your vehicle, and then Uber tells you, go pick up this person here, and then go drop them off there. And then we do something similar, and we say, go pick up this couch here, and then go drop off that couch there. Except, we're partnered with the couch flipper much more. Like we depend on the couch flipper a lot more than Uber depends on their driver, right? And so, Uber essentially leverages the driver for their own profit, and they just became profitable this year. In our relationship with the flipper takes the majority of the revenue. So we still want to prop the flipper up as a business owner instead of just leveraging them for labor. Because if we were doing the like leveraged labor model, it would really be like, instead of working with the flipper as a business, we'd be breaking down each individual task and then sourcing that out to gig workers, right? So it's like Instead of a flipper who's running a business, it's like, we need someone to deliver this couch. So we're going to hire someone for that delivery. I could probably find someone to do that for like 50, $60, right? We need someone to clean the couch. So you're going to come into our facility and you're just going to clean the couch. And maybe I could get you to do that for like $120, $150. So that's the main difference. But what I'll say is that the reason I brought this up is like our margins in the flipping business, not very good. Not very good. Our margins are, and we're, our top line sales are great, but we're not making money on this business. Not yet. And we're going to need some scale. So, that's our goal down the line. Anyway, circling back to your business, let's say your goal is to get to 8,000 net income. Right now you're around 4 based on 12K in revenue. So you need to double revenue, arguably, to get to that net income goal. What do you think is keeping you from getting from 12 to 24? And this is based on 30 flips as well. So you got to 12K revenue based on 30 flips, not all of it furniture, or not all of it couches.
99% of it couches. I tried to do Amazon return furniture. Like I was like, let's just try this. Let's buy a pallet and let's see how it goes. Bought a pallet, sold the stuff. Wasn't very good. Don't do it. So I made a little money that way. We've also kind of experimented in the revenue side of couch cleaning. So I was like, if only we could find somebody that like we go pick up their couch, take it to our studio, then bring it right back to their house. We're doing the same thing and we can charge them a really healthy margin. So we got a sectional, we cleaned it for $400. We returned it right back to them. So that's the same labor process for us. And we make a really, really healthy margin and I don't have to deal with marketplace and all that kind of stuff. But that's very slow going. There's not a lot of people that want to do that. So for me, the problem is with inventory. Like, I think that's the question that many flippers will have to figure out. And so that's part of the plan my partner and I made was how to basically get every couch in Chattanooga, Tennessee. How do we do that? And we have to not get out of marketplace completely, but we have to not rely on marketplace as much because there's a finite number of couches on there. And there are 5 to 6 flippers in Chattanooga that I can identify from their ads and everything. We're a mid-sized city. There are 300,000 people in our county. In Chattanooga proper, it's 175-ish. So there's enough to sustain us, but not enough to inventory to grow us. And I've seen the market here in this medium-sized town start to inflate with people who are selling their couches. So when I could buy a sectional for $100, now I got to pay $250 because the sellers, when they're going to sell their couch, go on marketplace, see all us flippers with the prices and see it selling. And so they know that they can charge a little bit, which is 100% correct. So now I'm having to spend more on a couch. So we've got to get out of marketplace. We've got to figure out something. Ideas that are floating around now are partnering with different furniture stores. I have listened to a couple of your podcasts and got some ideas from people who, actually furniture outlet stores or partnering with different junk removal, haul companies, all that kind of thing, to just try to get some more inventory in here before it makes it on marketplace and we have to end up paying more for it. So when you look at my P&L, like the line I'm targeting is my COGS, my cost of goods. I need that to come down. Right now it's at 27%. And I speak in percents with P&L. I hear a lot of flippers and I think a lot of business people speak in dollar amounts. And if I could give, the only piece of advice I could give with life experience is if you're running a business, talk in percents, don't talk in dollars. Because it just makes no sense. When you start getting up into thousands and millions of dollars, the dollars mean nothing anymore. Like, what's the difference? So talk in percents. So 27% of my revenue goes towards sourcing couches. That has got to come down. So we've been trying to figure out different ways to do that.
So something interesting you said is that you have no problem selling couches. Where does that feeling come from? Like, why do you say that?
Because when I get a couch, it sells very fast. I was like, I'm not quite sure I'm understanding.
Yeah. So if we were to quantify it, what is your average time to flip a couch?
Less than a week. 90 to 95% of our revenue, as soon as it's on Facebook, it's gone.
Mm-hmm. And do you have like a website, like a brand where you're pushing this stuff out? Or is it all just like your marketplace profile?
just started a group page on Marketplace, and we are going to invest in a website and try to get things that way because if we can get something before it gets on Marketplace, that'd be great. But as of now, no, it is strictly me, Dan, and Ivy Flip looking for couches and deals on Marketplace and going for that. So it's like that's the one good thing I tell about the business is we know what that looks like with like full investment and just Marketplace and muscle. We know what that looks like. That looks like $12,000 a month in revenue pretty consistently when we're on it full time. So investing in those types of things that you're talking about, different ways, advertising, that kind of stuff, that should help a lot.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay. The reason I ask is different flippers in different markets have different problems. And while I want to say 70% of flippers that hit a ceiling in their business, that ceiling is going to be sourcing. Some people can't seem to get like their act together with respect to sales. But personally, I think it's less of, I don't know, the market that you're in and probably something that you could be doing with your listings to make them more marketable. And so maybe that is just an area where you're hitting the nail on the head because frankly, to turn over a couch, your average couch in a week, that's pretty good. That's very, like, by the numbers, very good. I would say average is like 3 weeks for most flippers to turn over a couch. And you're cleaning every couch.
I mean, you know, me personally,
No, no, no. Just like every couch is getting cleaned when you like relist it or.
yes, I say it that way because we've actually started experimenting a little bit, going back to three seaters. So I think every couch flipper, or at least our journey was, we did three seaters and we said, oh, that's good income. That's interesting. And we were like, but if we go to sectionals, then we go from a $200 profit to a $400 profit. That's better. And we start doing that. And now I'm going back to three seaters because I'm looking at the numbers and going, a very good three-seater couch that is from a really clean person's house that doesn't need to be doing anything. We can take that at $50 and turn it into $200, and that's 25% cost of goods right there. And so we start doing that. So we started experimenting with trying to find three-seaters again, but with very specific criteria attached to it. And one of those criteria is the most we can do is vacuum it.
Right.
So here in November, I've sold 3 or 4 three-seaters just doing that, not cleaning anything.
Right. Honestly, it's a great business model. It's the thing that works for us out in New York City. Like we don't deal so much in sectionals.
Yeah, you can't. How are you going to carry them? You're going to carry them down a walk up?
Exactly. So, the business model that we are focused on in New York City is predominantly three-seaters to high-end brands, West Elm, Article, Crate and Barrel, Restoration Hardware, whatever, right? In good condition. They're probably anywhere from 2 to 5 years old. No like major damage, no stains, and then within a 10-mile radius of Manhattan. And, if
that last one is critical for you and for my thing. That was can't be more than 10 miles from my house so that I don't have to drive all the way out to some of these boony places. I don't say that in because that's bad. But some of these places are very rural. You have to travel for a really long time, and to do a deal where you make $150, $200 is not worth it.
Right. And it's easier to, transport, carry, store, clean if we need it. And then for cleaning, we try to do basic cleaning. We try not to do deep cleaning. We don't want to extract a couch and like have it dry if we don't need to. And that's just based on being selective with inventory. And luckily in New York City, there's enough three-seater couches in that like sort of state being posted that people are almost willing to give away. Our average profit margin, gross profit margin on a couch like that, well, let's say we make like $450, $500 per flip. Yeah, so it just works out pretty well. And like with a single flipper out in New York City, operating with like because we're being so selective, he makes around 15, 20 gross sales every month, single guy. So yeah, just to give a little bit more credence to the whole three-seater idea.
Yeah, they're making a comeback.
Yeah, they should make. And I think what happened is like in these groups, people just talk about sectional, and that's the only thing that works. But then, there are people out there, us included, they're making money on three-seaters and making money on futons or making money on recliners. Like there's, there are any number of things that you can flip. It's just that with the business model has been elucidated, and as you try things and they work out, you can add more tools into your repertoire.
Yeah, absolutely.
maybe that's one solution to resolve the sourcing problem that you have, is to experiment with a different selection of inventory, because yes, maybe there are only 25, 30 sectionals in Chattanooga that you could reasonably go for, but now you know, incorporate some three seaters, the profit margin is probably going to decrease, but you get more volume going.
Well, it goes back to what I was saying earlier, which is you start talking about your business in dollar amounts and you see these sectionals, what people are selling these sectionals for, and you go, holy crap, like I can make so much more money dollar wise going after these sectionals. But then you start to realize, like, man, if you want to get 4x return on a couch, at a certain point you lose that margin that you're making. Like, I can't find a $200 sectional that I can sell for 800 in Chattanooga very easily. There are one or two of them maybe a month, but that's not the majority. I'm selling 30, 35 couches a month. So you can't make those margins anymore. And suddenly you look down at a P&L percent wise and you're like, where did all my money go? And I think people fall into that trap of looking at the dollars and not the percentage. So I would just say, if you have a P&L out there and you're a flipper and you don't have the percents listed next to your dollars, like, figure out what your percent of revenue is.
Like, so we released this financial tracking spreadsheet. There's a YouTube video that is on our channel, and there's a link to the spreadsheet. And the nice thing about it is you list your transactions, you list your expenses, and it does all the math for you. It'll tell you everything. Yeah. What is your top line revenue? What is your average sale price? What is your average gross profit per flip? What is your gross margin? Yada, yada, yada. The reason I tend to talk in dollar amounts when it comes to couch flipping is I feel like
it's more accessible.
It's yeah, people understand it, right? Because when you're talking in the abstract 27%, 30%, if you have that context and experience, it can be very helpful. But if you're just sort of getting acclimated to thinking about your business in a structured way, it's much simpler to be like, okay, I make $200 net when I flip a couch. And then the other thing, like, even just the distinction between like gross sales, gross profit, net profit is a concept that is foreign to, you know, some of our audience. And so, you know, just trying in an effort to make things a little bit more understandable on that front.
Well, obviously any information is better than no information. So if you're going off of like, oh, these flippers, like you were saying, some flippers don't have their transactions recorded. Well, then the first step is, of course, get all your transactions recorded. If you're not talking about dollars at all, well, of course, talk about dollars. That's better than anything. But the next level of that, because, I mean, just looking up everything defined in percents, now I have a great equalizer across all businesses. Now I can compare my business to your business, to whatever, to a tech business, to a food service business, whatever. I can start to look and compare all of them because percents are a great equalizer. And then you can start to nail down, okay, why is this number this way in your business and this number this way in my business? And this data can go and affect the real world, and you can look at behaviors, and then you can go back to your data and see if your behaviors changed, did anything. Operations Management 101.
A couple ideas for you. I can see that sourcing is the issue, and that, you know, realistically, there are only so many couches that are going to be available in Chattanooga, Tennessee. That being said, there's probably, like, what is the closest major city to Chattanooga?
Atlanta.
Atlanta?
It's about an hour and a half away.
Okay.
The southern side of it is about 3 hours away.
Mm-hmm.
It's huge.
Yeah, I mean, that might be an opportunity, right? Like, in fact, I had another couch flipper on the podcast. He's flipping 15, 20 couches a week. And he's literally doing that, right? He's taking a box truck. I think I just saw him post on the Facebook group, thinking about buying a gutted school bus and just driving down to Atlanta, filling up his truck, and then, you know, going back to Columbus.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I knew he was doing that going up to Atlanta because I saw the podcast. And then I spied and trolled on his Facebook group. So I'm spying on his group. And that gutted out school bus, Dylan, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm. And he's not the only person that I know who does this. There are a number of couch flippers that utilize the strategy. They're in a less populated area, let's say population 100 to half a million people. They'll go into the next major metro with a box truck, do all of their pickups, even, you know, twice a week. And that's how they get the relevant supply for their business. Seems like you guys are relatively well situated for that. You know, one thing that we've seen is we get a lot of lashback a lot of criticism, like I get a lot of criticism for the content that we've been making. And the primary criticism is like, you guys should shut up. You're getting more people into the game. You're letting them know like about couch flipping and blah 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 blah. And the common criticism is like, look, there are only so many couches getting listed on Facebook Marketplace in a given day in a given month, which is true. There are only so many people going to Facebook Marketplace to list their couches. And as more couch flippers get into the game, and if there's a limited supply and there's lots of demand, then it's going to be harder and harder to get couches on Facebook Marketplace. However, there are lots of couches outside of Facebook Marketplace too. And so if you want to have longevity in this game and you want to make money flipping couches and you want to build a flipping business in general, it behooves you to get creative, right? Maybe there's a limit to how many couches you can pick up in your market. Maybe there's an adjacent market. Maybe there's a limit to how many couches are listed on Facebook Marketplace. There are lots of couches outside of Facebook Marketplace too. And that is the hallmark of the entrepreneurs that are doing well with this business, is they didn't just let their success or their destiny be dictated by what is available on Facebook Marketplace. And so whether it's sourcing or whether it's sales, a lot of them have diversified off of that platform. And so I think Facebook Marketplace is really just the beginning for a lot of couch flippers who are serious about their business. It's the easiest way to get started. You want a couch? Okay. You have a fair shot at grabbing a couch on Facebook Marketplace. Go put in some effort. You want to go sell a couch? All right. Also, it gives you a nice channel for distribution, but it shouldn't be the end all be all of your business. That is what people are learning in the game right now is, yes, the opportunity on Facebook Marketplace for couch flipping maybe is becoming more limited due to more people getting interested in couch flipping. But there's another level to this game that people are not tapping into. And this is really what the goal of this podcast is about, right? Is helping people to understand that there are levels to this and trying to expose our listeners to conversations with people who have that mentality, that have already been there and done that, have already been able to find couches outside of Facebook Marketplace. Okay, how are they doing it? What is their thought process? What are their experiences in this front? And then even in selling and distribution, you don't have to just sell off your marketplace profile, right? You don't have to be so tethered to the thing. You can build a business outside of the concept of the marketplace.
Can I respond to that? The
Please.
argument that you had made, not that you were making, but flippers in general, when they're like, if you let more people know about this, more people will get into it and yada, yada, yada. That's a juvenile argument, like 100%. I don't know if they're juvenile people, but it's a juvenile argument because it's not a pie. It's not like if I get pie, you get less pie. We should be welcoming people into this business because it is something that gives us joy and something that we really, really like. And why wouldn't you want to share that with people? If you found something that you like and you want to keep it to yourself, like recognize that's a toxic behavior and get over it. Like there should be people coming into this and you need to evolve and grow. And again, if you are going on Facebook Marketplace, like, do you want to spend time on Marketplace? Like Marketplace sucks. Like it really does. So what you're saying is like, hey, get off Marketplace so I can be on Marketplace more? Like, absolutely not. I knew from day one that you have to eventually get off Marketplace because it is just a horrible cesspool of people acting and trying to either scam you or trying to take $1 million off of a couch. All that kind of stuff is just horrible. So if you are saying you want to stay on Marketplace, it's juvenile is what it is. So there's your soundbite.
The word I would use is entitled. It feels entitled to me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that sounds right.
It feels entitled because what makes you, not you, but what makes this person more deserving of an opportunity to make money and build a future for themselves and their family? That's what people get into the game for, right? It's these honest intentions by and large. So what makes you more entitled to that opportunity than anyone else because you got there first? It doesn't work like that, right? It's not like you had to invest something and therefore are more deserving of something than anybody else that finds it later than you, right? It's not like you put up the capital to build Facebook Marketplace and have equity in this thing. No, it's like you built a business on top of a marketplace, and anyone and everyone else has equal access to that marketplace. But more importantly, it doesn't matter. right? Because whether or not you complain about more people getting onto Facebook Marketplace and therefore the supply dwindling or whatever, it's happening, right? And it's not due to me. I wish it was due to me, right? I wish I had so much power and in control over what people do in couch flipping, or how they live their lives, but it's just not true.
Mhm.
All I'm doing is with the podcast, at least giving a voice to people that are already in the game and allowing them to share their perspective in a more structured way. So hopefully that people who are already in the game can learn from those experiences and take their game to that next level.
Mhm.
My content is not geared towards people that are not already couch flipping, because who'd care to listen to an hour long conversation like we've had unless you're already serious about flipping couches.
Yeah, if you've listened all the way through on this video, you are deep in couch flipping. You're obsessed with it.
It's like I was saying earlier, it's been a year. I've been in the couch flipping industry world now for a year. It's been a very fruitful, interesting year. I've been around the block. I've done a lot of different, this is my fifth startup. I've done everything from marketing, consumer packaged goods, market research, insurance technology, financial technology. And who'd have known that like all the culmination of all that experience would be like, I'm the couch guy. I'm the couch technology guy. I can see, your pseudonym here is Michael Couch God.
Oh, you can see that?
Yeah, I can see that. So
That's true. I mean, it's true. Well, I got a question for you.
sure.
Why did you decide to do this? Why couches? I mean, the picture I have in my mind that I'm projecting onto you, that I know isn't probably right, is you did a lot of tech stuff, and the tech stuff you can identify a fractured market, and so you said, okay, I know how to unify a fractured market with tech, and so you just picked it. But I don't know. That's the dispassionate version of you I gave.
Yeah. No, that's a good question. So I will say we didn't get here for no reason. We got here for a reason, and we were intentional in. It's just simply we were intentional in how we got here. We did not expect to be here either. So Ivy started out as a financial technology company. So me and my co-founder, we raised some money towards the end of 2021, about 2 years ago, and initially we were doing financial services for gig workers, Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, DoorDash delivery people, so on and so forth. And, these people are by and large underbanked, unbanked, credit invisible, credit, or have bad credit ratings. And so the people who need the best access to financial services, arguably, in order to improve their, financial status, have the worst access or the least access. And so that was a problem that we're trying to solve. And then the public markets crashed. And everything that you've seen about tech stocks, et cetera, that happened last year. And for some reason, while that was happening, we sort of didn't think it applied to us. Absolutely did. When we realized that we couldn't go raise more money to continue to build the financial services business, we're like, okay, how do we make money? And that was really the impetus that led us down this road and led us to pivot, and then ultimately led us to get into couch flipping. When we're looking at gig workers' bank accounts in order to do credit risk analysis to see if we could lend them money, most of these guys didn't even have $500 in savings. And so while we really liked the mission that we were on with the financial services company, we realized that we weren't actually solving the problem either, which is they don't even have money to begin with. So that was the question that led us into the couch flipping market, which is how do we help people make money? How do we put money into people's pockets, and how do we get paid for doing it? And so one of our engineers at the time had a background in woodworking and had flipped some furniture on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist and things like that. So yeah, that's how we learned about furniture flipping. We explored that first. And furniture flipping, in contrast to couch flipping, predominantly a lot of women are flipping furniture, and they treat it more like an art or a hobby. Nothing wrong with that, but they're not as driven by making money as couch flippers are. And then adjacent to the furniture flippers were the couch flippers, and we're like, okay, these guys want to make money. Started talking to a couple of them. What are the problems that you have? A lot of them kept saying the same thing that you've been saying, is I can't find enough couches. We're like, we think we can help with that. And, we kind of surveyed the community. We looked at what was out there, what was the existing technology, et cetera. And we're like, we think we can add value here. And so we started having those conversations mid-October. We quickly built a scraping tool, and then we launched it November 8th, 2022. Now it's November 15th. as of, us recording this. And then, here we are about a year down the road. That's how we got into the game.
Nice. That's a cool origin story. That's a really cool origin story. I did not know.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a little bit more of our context out into the world too, because we do get a lot of criticism. People feel like we're outsiders and, these Silicon Valley tech guys, and they're coming into our world and taking it over. In reality, it couldn't be like further from the truth. I mean, I grew up very, very poor. My dad worked in Chinatown in New York City for the majority of his career. We're not like rolling in dough by any means. And anything that I have today, if people like look at me and my lifestyle or whatever, everything, like nothing was handed to me. I had to work for all of it. And it was not an easy process to get here. Still is not. I'm very happy with my life now. Like I have no complaints, but it's not like I'm sitting here not working and just like rolling in dough. And like every day I get up, I put in the work.
Way to go, Charles. Way to go.
It's been about an hour. We should probably start wrapping this up. You got something to say? I don't want to cut you off.
Not really. I was gonna say we had a cool origin story to know that it came from a point of view actually doing the work first and then identifying where that work can be more efficient and how you can help it. I mean, if anybody wants to say that you're coming in from the outside and blah, 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 I mean, that's just don't buy the product. You know what I mean?
Look, it doesn't bother me to be successful at business. You got to have some thick skin. I got some really thick skin, but I put that out there more so to try and be more accessible. Right. I feel like when I talk to people, maybe it's a character flaw of mine, I can come off as holier than thou.
Stoic is the word I would use. You don't seem like you're in a judgmental or like a superior thing. You're just very stoic as a person. And I can only identify it because I'm like a bull in the china shop. That's me. That's my personality. And you have the parts of my personality that are really hard for me to access sometimes are quiet and being still. And so I recognize that in other people, and it's kind of cool, if that makes any sense.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. You're even keel.
I'm just trying to tell it like it is. No judgment. Really no judgment. I think people are out here working hard. They're trying to make something of themselves, make something for their family. I have nothing but respect for that. I think that is the American dream. I'm a big believer and big supporter of that. So yeah. But yeah, Michael, I appreciate you coming on the pod today. I think this was a very interesting conversation. We took some twists and turns, and I think our viewers are going to get a lot out of this conversation. Appreciate having you on.
Yeah, man. Glad to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Let's do it again soon.
All right. See you later, Charles.